So, D&D is 50 years old, and since it's 50 years old now, I think I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about how Dungeons & Dragons is utterly unique in terms of fantasy fiction. It's a completely unique creation and unusual creature, and I realize it's an odd thing to say about something that, on first pass, is pretty boilerplate fantasy. You got dwarves and elves and dragons and all this kind of stuff. This is classic fantasy stuff. But I mean, in terms of the way D&D is constructed, it's utterly unique. There's nothing else like it. When most other fantasy fiction worlds are created, it's usually one writer or a handful of writers weaving a beautiful, perfect tapestry of their world that makes sense and is logical and stands up. And D&D is not that. D&D is a big, dumb quilt. It's a big, dumb quilt made by thousands of people over 50 years that includes everything from magic magazine articles and pamphlets, ask your parents, and cartoons and movies, and everything in between. And it's been made by so many people in so many different ways over so many years that it's just big and dumb and messy and has all this bizarre, forgotten stuff in it that nobody's seen or used. And I love it for that. That's what I love about D&D lore and why it is so unique to me. And the coolest thing about that is when you decide to take up D&D, when you decide to DM, when you decide to create your own campaign, build your own worlds and do that kind of thing. You can do it by adding to existing patches on the quilt, adding your own little spin or your own little flair to it, or you can add your own new patch to the quilt, a whole new world, a whole new setting, and a whole new group of characters, or you can throw the whole damn thing in the garbage and start a new quilt from scratch. But no matter which path you choose, there's a chance, however remote, that if it's really good and it's really popular, there's a chance it could be added to the main quilt that everybody else uses as reference when they build their D&D campaigns. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that beautiful? This big, dumb mess is a thing that any individual with ideas in their head and creations has a possibility of adding to. That's beautiful. That's very beautiful in a lot of ways. And like I said, there's nothing else like it. And that's why I love it. But the other side effect of that is just this bizarre mess. Like, how would you even pitch the D&D world to somebody as like an intellectual property? This is why the corporate masters are going crazy trying to figure out a way to monetize this stuff. Think about it. It's insane. It has no consistent setting. It has no consistent main characters. It doesn't even have a consistent plot. It's just a place where stuff happens. That's all it is. There's stuff happens in Toril or Eberron or Dragonlance or Darksun, and a bunch of nameless mercenaries take care of it or die in a cave. That's the story. That's the way it happens. It's just a place where stuff happens. And you couldn't pitch it. The only main characters you could possibly think of are some of the novel characters, and that has their own issues. So it's bizarre and crazy, and I love it. And it's got all these weird, forgotten pieces of lore, all these strange things that don't fit in. And I want to talk about a couple of those. So, for example, it's weird that a couple of the creatures, we have two things, right? Like, we have Dragonborn, and we have half-dragons. Now, ostensibly, on paper, these are the same creature. They're dragon humanoids. But they're not. They're not the same creature. We just have two, and we gotta fit them in somehow. And this is the other cool thing about the D&D lore. You have all of this lore, this world, this big dumb quilt that is messy, and you have to fit a game system into it about as easily and carefully as one fits a giraffe into a dishwasher. And then, of course, orcs. There's two different kinds of orcs in Dungeons & Dragons. There's the traditional pig-faced orcs. They got the turned-up nose. And then there's the other orcs that look like more like orcs from the worlds of craft and or hammer variety. And they also have a suspiciously similar backstory to some orcs of the craft variety. So, you take from that what you will, but it's kind of weird that we have two sets. I mean, I don't know. Is it weird? We've got like 12 different kinds of goblins and like 13 kinds of elves. It's bizarre. The whole thing's crazy. Ettins! Ettins used to be a way bigger deal. Nobody gives a damn about Ettins anymore. So Ettins used to be able to crossbreed with all different kinds of giants. So you'd have Ettins that were like part ogre or part troll or part fire giant or frost giant. And they were very susceptible to lycanthropy. So you'd have Ettins, imagine frost wolf giant like werewolf Ettin. Two-headed werewolf frost Ettin. Frost wolf. Frost werewolf. It'd be cool. It'd be neat. Try it out for your campaign. Other cool stuff. Barovia. Where is Barovia? Where is Barovia? So way back in the day when Barovia was... when Curse of Strahd was written. Curse of Strahd was written by a nice couple who were frustrated that there was no horror campaigns for them and their friends to play. So they ended up writing Curse of Strahd together. And Curse of Strahd originally took place in Barovia, and Barovia was part of this kind of Eastern European analog world that they kind of made up and put in there. Since then, Barovia has kind of been extracted from there and placed in a setting where you can access it from 5th edition, which takes place in the Forgotten Realms in Toril. And what they cleverly did is they put it in the Shadowfell, which is a place you can kind of technically get from any world. And it is in a demi-plane, the Shadowfell, allegedly. How to get there? Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. Well, whenever you notice something like that, a wizard did it.
I see. All right, yes.
Come to think of it, the Netherese are also in the Shadowfell. There's a lot of stuff and weird people in the Shadowfell. Is the Shadowfell the land of misfit toys for D&D concepts? Is that an incredible idea for a campaign? Both these things are true. Other weird stuff about D&D, there's a bunch of worlds in Toril that we've never been to and we're probably never going to go to. So we've got the Forgotten Realms, the Sword Coast. That's where we're told all our adventures take place. But in addition to that, it's like it's a whole world. So we also have Karatur, which is like an East Asian cultural stand-in, a Pacific Asian, East Asian, a lot of different options in there. And then, of course, we have Moscow, which is a South American kind of Latin world. And we also have Kalimshan, which is kind of a Middle Eastern Arabian world. And we're probably never going to go to any of those places because at the time they were written, they had just the lightest dusting of cultural appropriation and just a dash of racism.
Well, didn't anybody see this coming?
It was the 80s. Nobody was too worried about the future.
We're probably never going to see them in a module again, but I'd really love to. So if you are a person of any of these cultures or regions, dig that stuff up. Just make it legit. I'd really like to go back there. Karatur? Weebs would love Karatur. I'm just telling you right now. But anyways, or you could just go back, the old books are still there. I digress. So, there's all this weird, bizarre, old shit in D&D. There's a lot of forgotten lore and leftover pieces and stuff that nobody will see ever again. There's stuff that doesn't make sense or doesn't match. We have doubles of things we don't need doubles of. There's characters and creatures that used to be big deals that we've long since forgotten about, but they're still in the monster manual. So now there's just like some big dumb creature that you can use in your campaign that you don't know anything about. It's a mess, and I love it for it. It's an utterly unique, perfect mess. There's nothing else that can compare to it. The closest thing that can compare to it is like Magic the Gathering. And Magic the Gathering is also a mess and technically part of D&D now. So there's that. Which, by the way, look, Magic the Gathering worlds, there's some good stuff in there. I don't know why they decided just to include like Theros and like Strixhaven and like Guilds of Ravnica. Those are hardly the most interesting places to go in Magic the Gathering. There's so many more, so many better places that they could have added as worlds, and a lot of it's easy to adapt. It's technically part of it. I'd love to do a separate video about this, like cool stuff from MTG that you could bring to your games. The game itself, a little bit toxic, but whatever, you don't need to keep the whole thing. You got these other pieces. So that's my take on the D&D 5th edition lore. It's a big, stupid mess. It's a giant, beautiful quilt that anybody could add to or be a part of if they really want to. So why don't you go down in the comments and let me know what are your favorite things about D&D lore? What forgotten pieces or nuggets or portions of the lore that you absolutely love? Was there something interesting that was added to the lore by a DM that you play with that you thought was really cool and that you wanted to be part of this main quilt? What is the most delightful part of D&D lore for you. Go ahead and let me know down below. Heck, maybe I'll even make a video about it. And we'll see you guys all in the next video. Until next time, puck out.